Welcome to Movement, Rhythm, and Conversation, the show where we delve into the profound impact of religion, spark provoking conversation, explore the world through an open-minded perspective. I'm your host, Tafari, here to bring you engaging discussions, eye-opening stories, and conversation that pulls no punches. Whether it's faith, culture, creativity, or real-life experience, we keep it raw, honest, and unfiltered.
Religion has been a cornerstone of the African American community for generations. It's a place of refuge, hope, and unity. But what if I told you that this very institution, revered by so many, has roots in oppression? That its teachings, while comforting, might actually hold us back. Stay with me here. This isn't an attack on belief, it's an invitation to question the stories we've been told. Let's start with history. During slavery, Christianity wasn't introduced to enslaved Africans as an act of compassion, it was a tool of control. Slave owners weaponized the Bible to justify their brutality, cherry-picking verses to preach obedience and submission. Take Ephesians 6:5, "Servants, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling." Verses like this weren't just quoted, they were hammered into the psyche of an entire people. This wasn't faith, it was indoctrination. And when enslaved Africans tried to maintain their spiritual traditions, those practices were demonized. Imagine being stripped of your culture, your identity, and your autonomy, only to be told that this was God's plan. Even today, remnants of that indoctrination persist. The Black Church often emphasizes patience and suffering, urging believers to wait for their reward in heaven. But isn't that just a repackaging of the same narrative? Be obedient now. Endure hardship now. Your freedom, your justice, will come later. But why later? Why not now? It's not just Christianity or the Black Church, though. Across the board, religion struggles under the weight of its own contradictions. Consider this: if we assume that one religion is true, then by default, all others must be false. If Islam is the ultimate truth, then Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, and countless others are wrong. And if Christianity is the correct path, then billions of Hindus, Buddhists, and Muslims are mistaken. But this raises a critical question: how can an industry, built on claiming absolute truth, exist when those truths are fundamentally incompatible? Think about it. Religions can't all be right, but they can all be wrong. And if they are wrong, that makes religion not just a misstep in humanity's quest for understanding but an entire enterprise built on myths, stories, and, in many cases, lies. Take Hinduism, for instance, which tells of gods with multiple arms and incarnations cycling through time. Or Mormonism, which claims that ancient Israelites settled in the Americas, despite no archaeological evidence to support this. Or Scientology, which asserts that humanity's issues stem from alien spirits trapped in volcanoes. These stories might sound fantastical or even absurd when viewed from the outside. Yet, within their own systems, they are sacred truths. The same can be said for Christianity's virgin birth or the splitting of the Red Sea. These narratives demand belief over evidence, relying on emotion and tradition to sustain their power. And this is where the industry of religion comes in. With billions of dollars in donations, real estate holdings, and political influence, religion isn't just about faith, it's big business. Whether it's the prosperity gospel promising riches in exchange for tithes, or megachurches with pastors flying private jets, the system thrives on the emotional and financial investment of its followers. The Black Church, for all its cultural significance, is not exempt from these contradictions. It's a space where emotional resonance often overrides logic. When you're surrounded by people who believe what you believe, it's easy to feel validated. But is that validation based on truth or tradition? Let's think about the practices. Speaking in tongues, for example, it's often celebrated as a divine language, a spiritual gift. But outside of a church setting, If someone suddenly started speaking unintelligibly, we'd question their mental health, not their holiness. Or consider possession, whether it's being overtaken by the Holy Spirit or battling demonic forces. In most contexts, hearing voices or acting under external control would raise alarms about mental illness, not spiritual enlightenment. And then there's communion. Symbolically eating someone's body and drinking their blood to purify yourself might be accepted in a religious context, but imagine describing that same ritual outside of it. It would sound bizarre, even macabre. Right now, science doesn't have all the answers to life's biggest questions. Why are we here? What happens after we die? These are mysteries we're still unraveling. But here's the thing, saying I don't know is okay. It's honest. It's better than building an entire worldview on shaky foundations. Maybe the best way forward isn't to cling to ancient stories, but to embrace the unknown. To explore, to question, and to strive for a morality that isn't dictated by fear or tradition but by logic, empathy, and responsibility. Because the truth is, we don't need religion to be good. We need courage to seek the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. The answers may not come easily, but the journey, the questioning, the learning, the growing, that's where we'll find the strength to shape a better world.
That audio clip came from the podcast Chad Alpha. Welcome to Movement, Rhythm, and Conversation. I'm your host, Tafari. Today's episode is not for the faint of heart. It's not for those who want to stay comfortable in illusions or hide behind traditions. This episode is for those who are ready to open their eyes, confront the lies, and walk boldly into truth. We call this episode The Walking Dead of Faith because too many of our people are alive in body but dead in spirit, chained in the mind by a religion that was never ours. For centuries, European colonizers used the Bible as a whip, not just to control our ancestors' labor, but to strip away their identity, their history, their power. And here we are today, still kneeling before the same God they handed us, still trapped in the same cycle of obedience, waiting for salvation that never comes. In this conversation, we're going to break down the hypocrisy, the blindness, and the mental enslavement that religion has cemented in our community. We'll ask the questions that too many are afraid to ask. Why do we worship the exact image of the man who once enslaved us? Why do we call rebellion evil, but obedience holy? And why do we, as a people, feel attacked when someone challenged the very system that has kept us in spiritual darkness for generations? This isn't about destroying faith. It's about exposing falsehoods. It's about reminding ourselves that before the slave master's cross, we had our own gods, our own spiritual systems, and our own divine connection to the universe. So, buckle in. This episode may shake you. It may anger you. But if it wakes even one person from the sleep of blind faith, then it's done its job. This is the Walking Dead of Faith. Let's get into it. I realize that everyone is entitled to their beliefs, but entitlement to belief doesn't make belief true. It doesn't erase hypocrisy. And what happens when you can't clearly see the hypocrisy in religion, while the people around you are too blind, too indoctrinated, too chained to see for themselves? That blindness is not natural. It has been manufactured, refined, passed down from generation to generation like a family heirloom of mental enslavement. For centuries, European white colonizers mastered the power of mental control. They discovered that chains on the body could be broken, but chains on the mind could last forever. With religion as their weapon, they enslaved not just the flesh of my ancestors, but their very thoughts. They made the American African despise himself and worship the image of his oppressor. That's a crime greater than slavery itself, because it continues to poison us long after the physical shackles have been broken. The Europeans did not only enslave the African Americans, he enslaved the entire continent with his cross, his Bible, and his false claim to divine authority. He stripped Africa of its gold, ivory, land, and labor. But most devastatingly, he stripped Africa of her memories and her God. He replaced them with a story that has no roots in our soil, no connection to our ancestors, yet demand absolute obedience. And today, my people, the descendants of kings, queens, warriors, and inventors feels as if I am attacking the very core of their existence because I refuse to bow to the slave master's religion. They call me rebellious, faithless, even demonic. But what is truly demonic? Is it me asking them to think for themselves? Or is it the lie that has them worshiping their oppressor, God, tithing their last dollar to preachers and waiting for a salvation that never comes? I look around and see a people walking like the dead, smiling, shouting, dancing in church pews, yet living in total darkness about who they are. They've been taught to pray for deliverance while ignoring the fact that deliverance requires action. They've been taught to love everyone but themselves. They've been taught to obey, to wait, to endure suffering as their misery were holy. This is not life. It is existence without direction, a wandering in circles with no promised land at the end. My people don't realize that the condition they are in is no accident. They do not ask why poverty, crime, sickness, and broken families remain constant in our communities while we flood churches every Sunday. They don't ask why the God they worship looks like the same man who once owned their bodies. They don't ask why their preacher live in a mansion while they live in debt. They are too afraid to question, too loyal to the lie, too blind to see the hypocrisy that enslaved them. I write not to destroy my people, but to wake them, to strip away the illusion, to remind them that before the Bible, before the cross, before the white man came with his so-called good news, we had our own gods, our own spiritual system, our own power. We were not lost until we were told we were lost. We were not in darkness until someone turned off our light and handed us theirs. Religion, as given to us by Europeans, had made my people the walking dead, alive in the body, enslaved in the mind. Until we unchain our mind, we will never reclaim our souls. Family, as we close out today's conversation, remember this: freedom doesn't start with laws, government, or even revolution. Freedom begins in the mind. Until we break the chain of mental slavery, we will remain trapped, even if our own bodies are free. Don't be afraid to question. Don't be afraid to challenge what you've been taught, because the truth will never fear your question. This is movement, rhythm, and conversation. I'm your host, Tafari, reminding you, unchain your mind, reclaim your soul. Until next time, stay awake, stay strong, and stay free.